Welcome to Dark Tales, where darkness tells its own stories. Here, you'll hear the scariest and most mysterious tales, inspired by real events and chilling true experiences that most people are too afraid to share. If you're a fan of horror and the unknown, don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a new story. Get ready, because tonight's tale will take you deep into the shadows. My name is Ray, and back in 2012, I worked as the night shift supervisor at a well-known 24-hour supermarket in a quiet part of Texas. The store sat near the outskirts of town, surrounded mostly by empty lots and silent roads after dark. Working the night shift was usually peaceful. I'd restock shelves, check security cameras, assist a handful of late-night shoppers. It was a quiet routine, until everything changed. Ron Pushpin, the first night, he used to live here. It all began one night around 2:30 a.m. I was behind the register when a strange man walked in. He looked wrong. Tall, lanky, wearing a thick winter coat even though it was warm out. His hair was messy, and he carried a black plastic bag. He slowly walked through the aisles without picking anything up. Just gliding his hand across the products like he was trying to remember something. Something distant. I approached him and asked if he needed help. He stared at me. Not angrily. Not confused. Just coldly. Then he said, in a low voice, "I used to live here, before they built it." I laughed awkwardly, thinking it was a joke. He didn't smile. He turned around and calmly walked out. Weird, sure, but I assumed he was just a disturbed drifter. That's what I told myself. 3 o'clock the second night, he's back. The next night, around the exact same time, 2:30 a.m., I saw him again. But this time, he didn't enter through the main doors. He just appeared. One moment the aisle was empty, and the next, he was there. I checked the camera footage. Nothing. No entrance. No door opened. He just appeared between aisles 6 and 7, staring at the dairy wall. I walked toward him, but before I reached the spot, he was gone. I started questioning my sanity. Was I sleep deprived? Hallucinating? But the next night proved I wasn't. Video camera. The third night, the cameras lied. Determined to figure out what was going on, I decided to monitor the cameras live throughout my shift. Everything was normal until 2:35 a.m. The screens began to glitch. Not static, but images. Old images. Footage that couldn't possibly exist. I saw the land where the supermarket now stood, empty dirt fields. Then, the man's face filled the entire monitor. Just his face, staring directly at me. His eyes completely black. No whites. No pupils. Just voids. I panicked and called mall security. But when they arrived, the feed was normal again. Clean. No glitches. No mysterious man. I told my manager the next day. He gave me a long, quiet look and said, "You're not the first employee to report seeing him." Then he added, almost in a whisper, "What's strange is, those old images? We've never connected the system to any old archive. That footage shouldn't exist." The fourth night, who was buried here? On the fourth night, I decided it would be my last shift. At 2:40 a.m., I felt it. A presence behind me. I turned. He was standing at the back stockroom door. But this time, something was different. His skin looked cracked. Peeling. Like it was trying to come off. His eyes were deeper, darker than before. He took a single step forward, and I swear I couldn't breathe. He leaned slightly and whispered, "Now you know who they buried here." Then he vanished. I worked the night shift at a small supermarket in a remote town in Washington state. At first, the job was quiet and uneventful, just restocking shelves, monitoring the security cameras, and occasionally helping a late-night customer. The store was open 24 hours, but late at night it felt cold and still, as if time itself had stopped. The dim fluorescent lights cast eerie shadows along the aisles, and faint noises echoed from the corners, but I thought it was just the building settling. One cold winter night, around 1 a.m., I was reorganizing canned goods in aisle 7 when the lights suddenly went out in the entire section. I flipped the switch repeatedly, but nothing happened. I grabbed a flashlight and began making my way toward the breaker box at the back. As I walked through the aisles, the temperature dropped sharply, and my breath turned visible in the icy air. Then I started hearing faint whispers all around me, indistinct and growing louder by the second. The whispers surrounded me as I moved toward the electrical room, but I felt like something was following me. Every time I turned around, there was no one there. Then, out of nowhere, I felt a freezing hand brush against my shoulder. I screamed and whipped around, but the aisle was empty. Suddenly, a tall black shadowy figure appeared behind me. Its eyes glowed a deep red. I tried to run, but my legs felt glued to the floor like I was trapped by invisible chains. My screams were muffled, my voice strangled. Up ahead was an old wooden door I'd never seen before. Desperate, I pushed it open and stepped inside. I found myself in a pitch-black room filled with ancient books and tattered photographs. An old book lay open on a table, its pages covered in strange symbols glowing with an unnatural light. At the center was a large mirror. I looked into it and saw my reflection slowly morph into the shadowy man's face, smiling wickedly. Panic surged through me, and I tried to flee, but the door had vanished, replaced by a solid wall. I was trapped. A voice whispered coldly, "You've entered my world, and you will never leave." The room began to shrink, the glowing symbols pulsed brighter, and the whispers turned into deafening screams. The floor beneath me seemed to collapse as I fell into darkness. Suddenly, I woke up on the floor of the electrical room. The breaker switch was on, and the lights were back. I didn't know how long I'd been unconscious. That night, I quit my job. The next day, when I told the manager what happened, he smiled and said, "Nothing happened. The cameras didn't record any of that. You're just tired from the night shifts." I wanted to believe him, but I couldn't. In the nights that followed, strange things kept happening. Shadows flickered at the corners of my vision, faint footsteps echoed behind me but vanished whenever I turned. Sometimes, I'd find cryptic messages scrawled on the storage room door, messages like "You'll never leave." The manager told me the storage room had been locked and unused for years. I became afraid to go to work, but I needed the money. Every time I neared aisle 7, the lights would flicker, and the air would turn icy cold. After weeks of terror, I couldn't take it anymore. I quit, but before leaving, I snapped a photo of the door with the message. When I looked at the picture later, dark shadowy figures appeared behind the writing, like someone watching me. I left the supermarket that night and never returned. But sometimes, in the quiet of the night, I still hear the whispers and see the shadows following me. I used to work at a 24-hour chain supermarket in New Jersey. It wasn't glamorous, but it paid enough to get by. I worked the late shift, 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. Most of the time, it was just me and the overnight stalker named Darren. We didn't talk much. He kept to himself and wore headphones most of the night. One night in late October, the air was heavy and damp, and the store was unusually empty. Around 2:45 a.m., I noticed a woman enter the store. She was wearing a long, pale gray dress that seemed a little outdated. Her hair was tied tightly in a bun, and her face looked still. Too still. Like she was wearing a mask. But she wasn't. She didn't grab a cart. She didn't go to any section. She just walked slowly through each aisle, never picking up anything, just brushing her fingers across the items like she was feeling them, remembering them. I greeted her. "Ma'am, let me know if you need anything." She didn't look at me. Didn't blink. She just kept walking. It creeped me out, but I didn't think much of it until I checked the camera feed 20 minutes later. The footage showed her entering through the front doors, but halfway through the frame, she disappeared. Just vanished. One frame she's there, and the next she's gone. I replayed the footage again and again. I even checked the doors, there was no exit recorded. I thought maybe it was a glitch. Maybe she left and the camera missed it. Then, things got worse. That same night, we started hearing sounds coming from aisle 3. Bottles clinking, cans falling. Darren and I rushed over, thinking maybe a raccoon or bird got in somehow. But the aisle was empty, except for a single can of soup that was spinning slowly on the floor. I laughed nervously, but Darren didn't. He looked pale and whispered, "I've seen her before." I asked what he meant. He took off his headphones and looked me in the eyes. "She comes in every year. Always in late October. Same time. Same dress. Never speaks. And she never leaves through the door." I thought he was joking, but his face was dead serious. He told me he once followed her through the store, trying to confront her, but she vanished behind a freezer door. That door led to a wall. The next night, I asked the manager if he knew anything about a woman haunting the store. He froze, then told me something I'll never forget. Back in the 1980s, before the supermarket was remodeled, it used to be a department store. A woman had gone missing inside one night after closing. Security said she was the last shopper. They saw her on camera, but her body was never found. Police searched for days. Nothing. She just vanished. Rumor was she had a breakdown and used to come in daily, walking the aisles, convinced her missing son was hiding there. No one connected the stories until staff started seeing her decades later. Always the same description. Same face. Same silence. A few nights later, I saw her again. She was standing still at the end of the cleaning supplies aisle. Not moving. Just staring at me. I blinked, and she was gone. I walked down the aisle and found something new this time, a child's shoe. Dusty. Small. Old. I quit the job a week later. But sometimes I wonder if anyone else working there tonight is seeing her walk past them, brushing her fingers across the shelves, still searching.